Hey, what's up, guys? Raymaster Flex here. Well, see what I just did there. Flex here. Um, I'm going to be doing a video that this video here I'm going to be doing as a video that I've been doing for quite a while now. Of top 10, well, in this case, I'll be doing top 15 match of the year candidates of this year. Now, let me just say this. And if you guys hear me coughing, hear me cough here and there. I got a small cold. Uh, this was one of the hardest years to make this list. So for this reason, this video will only talk about the main roster matches because not only did NXT have some good matches, but also 205 Live stepped up his game this year ever since Triple H took control of 205 Live. Because as we know, at one time 205 Live was always took place on Raw. People for 205 Live was always on Raw, but then that's when they took them off of Raw. And once that happened, people slowly started to get invested. And since Triple H has taken over and has more control of 205 Live, they've really had some incredible matches this year. And it's a shame because a lot of the 205 Live arenas are half empty and people just don't seem as invested as they should be. And these are some incredible talents in 205 Live. They've had some of the best matches that I've ever seen. NXT, which is a place that has been doing well, fine for itself, for like as usual, that's within its own turf. But with 205 Live, this has been like the biggest step up for 205 Live, where I can actually say that there were some matches that I seen that were absolutely match of the year worthy. And for that reason, I'm gonna have to do a whole separate video, which will probably happen sometime next year. I don't know when. That one of them will specifically talk about the top 10 or 15 matches of NXT of this year, where the other one will talk about the top 10 or 15 matches for 205 Live because they were both just that good that I just can't leave them out. If I do leave them out, that means I got a lot of projects I'm doing video wise, but it was just that good that, I can't just give this show all the credit. Like 205 Live really stepped up his game this year. So for that, definitely 205 Live is in the books. So for that reason, those two will be in the category of his own. So, like I said, this video will be strictly talking about the main roster matches. Now, it was really tough for me to make this list, but you know, it's my opinion. You don't have to agree with me what I say. Uh, but I had to do a couple of honorable mentions because these are matches where they either had a really good start and then a bad finish, or these matches were just too short. Or the match wasn't given enough time, or I just didn't like the way that the match ended, or who they had win the match. So first up, we have Samoa Joe in the honorable mentions list. You have Samoa Joe versus Roman Reigns for the IC title on New Year's Day. This was the first time in history that Raw had taken place live on New Year's Day. That had never happened up until this year, which was an accomplishment within itself. Raw went live on New Year's Day for the first time in history, which probably explains why SmackDown Live and Raw was pre-recorded for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, because even last year, Christmas Day was the first time in history that Raw was live on Christmas Day, which explains why this year they decided to pre-record Raw and SmackDown for those 2 days, and for even New Year's, Raw went live for the first time in history. So it probably explains why they pre-recorded it. I mean, it went live for the first time in history. I thought this was I thought this was a really good match. One of the things I didn't like is really one of the things I don't like about a lot of Samoa Joe matches is the fact that he's a really good talker. Samoa Joe is like a savage on the mic. He's at his finest. He's so good on the mic, and he's such a good performer. But every single time he's given a title opportunity, he's just always lose. And this was really, and I'm not going to hide it. I'm a big Samoa Joe fan. This was one of the times that I was really rooting for Samoa Joe to win the belt from Roman Reigns because I wanted to see him start the year off strong. I wanted to see him win his first belt on on Raw on the main roster. Of course, he's a former two-time NXT champion, but since he's been on the main roster, he hasn't won anything. Now, some can argue that that could be because he's always getting injured, but even if you leave that out of the equation, they've never pulled the trigger on him. Every time it seems like they're going to pull the trigger on him, they just don't do it. And this here was just one of those prime examples where, the New Year's had started, and I thought this would have been a perfect opportunity to give Samoa Joe the Intercontinental Championship, but they just decided to, have Roman Reigns retain. Like I said, people say what they want about Roman Reigns. The guy's dealing with leukemia right now. Hope he gets better. I really not gonna get too deep into Roman Reigns, but I do think this is one of the better matches that Roman Reigns had this year. The one he did with Samoa Joe on New Year's Day, I think that was one of the better matches that he did this year. Um, you know, I think it was a lot better than the match they had at Backlash, definitely, which was mainly all about sleeper holes and stuff. I think this match was definitely a lot better than the match they had at Backlash by a long shot. Um, Next up, you have John Cena versus Finn Balor on January 29th. I believe this actually took place right after the Royal Rumble, the night after the Royal Rumble. John Cena went against Finn Balor. Another good match. I just think this match here could have been given a little bit more time. Um, we saw Finn kick out of one AA. I think by the time Cena hit him with the second AA, that was it. Um, but I thought this was a good match, and that this was around the time that Cena kept switching shows because he was trying to confront the Undertaker um, to face him at WrestleMania. And for this reason, he had this thing to try to, win the Royal Rumble. First, he was gonna try to win the Royal Rumble. Then he failed at doing that. Then was gonna try to win the championship at Fastlane. He failed at doing that. Um, all for him to set up this whole build up against the Undertaker at WrestleMania, which we saw how short that match was. And he played as a guy that was in the crowd as if he was actually invested into the matches and things like that. So with that, this match that Cena had with Finn, it was a really good match. I just think that it could have been given a little bit more time, and also it would have been nice to see Finn win this match. But I mean, John Cena won, and there's nothing you can really say about that. Um, it is what it is. Next up, you have AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. And I'm just going to let you guys know this now. You will hear AJ's name about 2 times in this list because the crazy thing is the whole time AJ was champion this year, had quite a few matches that were match of year potential, but they just had bad finishes. And this is one of the examples. This match he had with Shinsuke at Backlash compared to their match at WrestleMania, which, to be honest, I think the one reason why people would say that match was disappointing, I mean, for one, I think one thing that killed this match was the fact that, by the time it took place, the crowd was already like half tired because, this pay per view, and they did this with WrestleMania last year too. It went way too long, in hours, and I think that's one thing that, where it was placed in the card, but then also it was just it started off very slow pace, but I think the way that the match ended was picture perfect when he went for the Kinshasa and AJ reversed it into a style clash. I think that was actually a perfect way to end it. I mean, some people may not agree with me, but I didn't think it was anything wrong with the way they ended the match. But this match at Backlash definitely was a lot better and a lot faster than their match at WrestleMania. The only thing that killed this for me was uh, the double low blow and the fact that it ended that way, where it was a double count out and AJ retained for that reason. Um, I don't know what it is with them and kicking each other balls this year, but they've been doing a lot of that this year, and it's been really annoying at this point. I mean, it was one thing when Shinsuke did it to turn heel against AJ Styles versus Mania, but since then, not only have they had Shinsuke doing it, but they also had Orton do it. Now, then they had Daniel doing it. They even had Dean Ambrose doing it. I mean, I don't know what it is with them and balls this year, but we've seen way too much of that this year, and it's absolutely ridiculous how much of that we've actually seen. I mean, for the love of goodness, like, can we just get one heel that doesn't do that? Men, anyways. So, this was a no disqualification match. And like I said, it was a really good match. Like, you could tell the crowd was invested to it. This was an excellent match. But they just had to end it with a double kick to the balls, and that's how they ended the match. I mean, why? Such a perfect match, and they had to end it that way. And going into this, I kind of figured that something corny was going to happen because I mean the past two backlashes we've had a new WWE champion. We saw last year when Jinder Mahal beat Randy Orton at Backlash, and then we saw how 2 years ago Dean Ambrose had lost the WWE Championship to AJ Styles at Backlash. So I kind of figured that this year they were going to do something cheesy where they were going to have like a double count or a DQ or something crazy for AJ to retain the belt so that they wouldn't have another title change at Backlash. But I think at the same time, this nearly killed Shinsuke's momentum to turn him heel and to not even capitalize on it and to not even give him the belt at all. And later on, Shinsuke really started to fall on the bus, but I'll get to that later. But yeah, it was an excellent match, and the only thing that killed it for me was the finish. Next on here, you have AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe at SummerSlam for the WWE Championship. Another excellent match. I think this match was more about the storytelling than it was about the actual match. And you could clearly tell based on when Samoa Joe started the match when he called out Wendy. He was like, "Hey, Wendy, how you doing?" I mean, you could tell that this match was more about the storytelling than it was about the actual match, and it was a really good match between these guys. And it's just a shame with how they've utilized Samoa Joe this year, and really just in general. Like they put him in so many title matches just for him to lose. This was another time I was rooting for Samoa Joe to win, and I just kind of knew that because they put so much emotion to this story, that something was going to happen where AJ was going to snap or something like that and cause a DQ. I just kind of figured something like that was going to happen, which is really sad, honestly. But it was a perfect opportunity to have Joe win, and once again they did not capitalize with it. It was just really sad. Um, but Joe, he had a potential. I think this should have really been his moment. And once again, it didn't happen. Um, and like I said, Joe's a savage. He's perhaps one of the biggest savages in WWE right now with his promos. Like I said, got such excellent promos, such a good person in the ring. And yet he still gets underutilized. It's really ridiculous. And this is just a prime example of that. And we saw how he said, "Hey, Wendy, I told you that daddy was coming home. Well, looks like he's not, but I'll be your new daddy." And from there, we saw AJ snap, and it just got crazy. So for that, I have to put this match under the list of honorable mentions because it was a good match, but it was more about the storytelling than the match itself. And for that, it just messed it up for being a match of the year for me. Um, Next, you got Ronda Rousey versus Nia Jackson, Money in the Bank. Another good match. This was actually, in my opinion, the best match that Ronda had other than her match at WrestleMania where she teamed with Kurt Angle, I think this was like one of her best single matches that she's had all year long. Was this match here with Nia Jax? Because not only did they make Nia Jax look strong, they also had Ronda Rousey look just as good in this match as well. So they didn't make it where it was just all about Nia Jax. They made both women look really good in this match. And for a second, you nearly thought that Ronda Rousey was going to win the belt, but it wouldn't have made sense to have given her the belt that early because that was literally her first singles match on pay per view. So really, it would have seemed like they were just handing her the belt to give it to her that quick. And that was her first singles match. So it was actually unfortunate they didn't give it to her. And Alexa Bliss got involved, cashed it on Nia, and won the belt back from Nia, in which she lost to Nia at WrestleMania. So, this is another really good match that just had the finish really messed up the whole thing. But you just kind of knew that was going to happen because, as I said during the time that this match took place, they didn't want they didn't want Ronda to lose, and they didn't want Nia to win. So they had to find some way to just kind of have something crazy happen, some type of DQ or something, so that way neither one of them was gonna, you know, let's put it this way: they didn't want Ronda to lose, but they also didn't want Nia, you know, they didn't want Ronda to lose, but they also didn't want Nia to win with her. So for that, they just had to find some type of way to end it off in the DQ and stuff. So there you go with that. Next on here, Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte at Survivor Series. Um, Another really good match that had a bad finish. You could just kind of tell that. I think they were only doing this because they try to make it. They basically, it almost seemed like they were doing this to kind of make Charlotte kind of take over the path that Becky would have probably done if she would have went against Ronda. So I think that's what this was all about. I think they just wanted Charlotte to you know, kind of like, have this baddish heel or babyface turn. I don't know. It's just weird at this point. But it was, I nearly thought that this was going to be the match of the night of Survivor Series, to be honest with you guys, believe it or not. But then that just really killed it for me when she got the kendo stick and took it out. I just kind of knew. Because once again, they didn't want Ronda to lose, but they didn't want Charlotte to win. So they had to find something to end the match off, and that's exactly how they ended it by Charlotte coming out and you know brutally attacking uh, Ronda Rousey at Survivor Series, which at the time I said was a heel turn, but then like the next SmackDown we saw her I think go against the Iconics or something in individual matches. So it's like, is she a heel? Is she a babyface? Like, what is this? It's just, I don't know. It's like the dynamics of heels and babyface this year has been really confusing with some of these people. So for that, that's also on the honorable mention list. Uh, said the New Day versus the Pleasure Bros at SummerSlam. Another really good match. Um, that had a bad finish. A lot of people are kind of tired of the New Day, the Usos, in the bar because they've seen it countless times, and I understand. But I think this match was a really good match for the Bludgeons and the New Day against each other. I think this was a really good match between the two teams. You just kind of knew that they weren't going to have the New Day win the belts that fast at SummerSlam, so they had to end it in some crazy fashion by the Bludgeon Bros getting DQ'd. And of course, the next night on SmackDown, they dropped the belts to the New Day because Eric Rowan was going through an actual injury. but they didn't want to have them drop the belts that night at SummerSlam, which kind of questioned to me why didn't they just drop the belts at SummerSlam instead of doing it on SmackDown Live? They could have just dropped it at SummerSlam, and he could have just recovered from his injury there. But there's another match on this list that was a really good match with a bad finish. Uh, Next, you have Jonathan Yamas versus Sin Cara. I believe this took place on the July 10th episode of SmackDown Live. This was a really good match that I just think it needed a little bit more time. Jonathan Yamas had a lot of good matches on SmackDown Live this year. He had two great encounters with Daniel Bryan. He had two good encounters with AJ Styles. He had a lot of good matches on SmackDown Live this year, but this match specifically was really one of his first feuds that started on SmackDown Live, which was really the only time we even saw Sin Cara. And Sin Cara had most of the offense in this match. Um, Andrade Cien didn't really do much in this match. Mostly Sin Cara had most of the offense, but it was good for what it was. I think this match, as short as it was, they did a really good job with this match. So for that, I put on honorable mentions. I think it just needed a little bit more time. Uh, Also, you have Andrade Cien versus AJ Styles. They faced each other two times on SmackDown, but specifically, I was speaking about the second time they faced each other. Sorry, guys. I was speaking of the second time they faced each other, which I believe was on July 24th. Uh, that time they faced each other was absolutely incredible. Um, the first time they went against each other was good. The second time they faced each other on SmackDown Live was even better. And the only reason I have it on the honorable mentions list is because one thing about Andrade Cien was a lot of his good matches is that he's such a good talent. He's such a great athlete, and he looks so good in defeat. And you know, even when he loses, and it just kind of brings the question as to are they doing this with a good cause? Is he going to get a push next year? Is that the reason why he's constantly getting losses? I mean, it's a little understandable because AJ Styles was the WWE champion at the time, but you just really question things like that. So that's kind of why I put that here. And the last two things I will mention: Seth Rollins versus Elias at Money in the Bank for the IC title. I think this match is really underrated. I don't think a lot of people really would give this match the credit it deserves. I honestly, in my opinion, this was one of my favorite matches out of all the Seth Rollins matches that he had this year. The only thing that killed it for me was the way it ended with the whole thing with Seth pulling the tights. I mean, I get why he did it, but the fact that they ended the match that way, that's really the only thing that killed it for me. Um, but besides that, it was a really excellent match. I think this was really the match that put Elias under the map. This was the match that we really got to see what Elias has under the table. This match really, you really got to see how good Elias really is in this match that he had with Seth. I thought it was that good. This was an excellent match for the IC title, and it's just a shame that it ended the way it did. I mean, you nearly thought, and many times, so many near falls, you nearly thought that Elias was going to win the belt. Um, but it was an excellent match between the two. I love this match a lot. Sorry, folks. I think a lot of people don't give this match the credit it deserves. I think this match is really underrated that Seth Rollins had against Elias. I think this was truly one of my favorite matches out of all the Seth Rollins IC title matches this year. This was definitely one of my favorite matches of all time. I think Elias. This was really the set. This was really the stepping stone for Elias here. We really got to see what Elias is capable of. I mean, we've seen him in matches prior to this, but this was really the match that we got to see Elias go at it and really showcase what he can do. So for that, I had to put this in honorable mentions because it was an excellent match. It just didn't have a good finish, in my opinion. Lastly, Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins at TLC. I think this was just a matter of the placement it was put in the card. I mean, the crowd had just seen an excellent match between Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles, and for that, they crapped all over this Seth Rollins and Dean's match for the IC title. I didn't think the match was bad. You know, people were saying it was boring. I didn't think the match was bad, but I just think it's the matter of the placement that they put it on the card. I think maybe if they had placed this match a little earlier or something, maybe if this was the opener, maybe if they didn't have the mixed match challenge as the opener, and maybe if that match had actually been put on the pre-show, because I really don't see why that should have been put on the main card in the first place. Not to say I have anything against R-Truth and Carmella, but I mean a match like that could have been put on the pre-show, not something you would put at the opener of a TLC pay-per-view. If anything, this match could have gone as the opener. I mean, some people say that it was because of the fact that there was no stipulation with this match, but I mean, there was no stipulation with AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan's match, and people still enjoyed that match. I mean, I just think it was a matter of the placement of the card. I just think it was bad placement of the card. They shouldn't have placed it directly after the WWE Championship match. If anything, they could have actually put this match as the opening match of the show, and then maybe it would have gotten a better reaction. Or the crowd just could have been dicks and just decided to, you know, treat it just to act that way, just to be that way. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the build up, some people say, you know, it wasn't all that great, but you know, I didn't think the match was bad. A lot of people said it was boring. A lot of people said it sucked. But to be honest, guys, I didn't think the match was bad. I just thought that we killed this match was just a placement of the card. So there you go with that. A bunch of honorable mention, folks. I know I had a lot of honorable mentions, but I told you that this was the hardest year it was for me to make this list. Uh, so that's why I had to put all those honorable mentions in 27 minutes into this video, which hopefully some people can stay watching this long. You'll get to hear the actual match of your candidates I gave this year. You don't have to agree with me all of them, but let's get started. First up, you got John Cena versus AJ Styles on SmackDown Live. This was directly after the Elimination Chamber 2 nights later on February 27th. This was still when Cena was switching shows. This was right before Fastlane. Cena had went against AJ Styles on SmackDown Live. And one of the reasons why I put this so low on the list was because we've seen a lot of that between early last year, and we saw a lot of that in 2016, a lot of AJ Styles and Cena matches. By this point, this was about paper. As far as like a show or pay per view, this was about the fourth time that Cena and Styles faced each other in a one-on-one matchup. Their first time was at Money in the Bank in 2016, in which AJ won that. Their second time was at SummerSlam, in which AJ won that. Their third time one-on-one, because they did face each other in No Mercy with Dean Ambrose involved, but one-on-one, their third time was at the Royal Rumble last year. And then this was their fourth time one-on-one on SmackDown Live. So for that, I put it very low on this list because I thought it was a really good match. But first of all, a lot of the best stuff took place on the commercials, like when AJ went for the Styles Clash and Cena went up for the Attitude Adjustment. A lot of like the best stuff took place during the commercial. Um, but it's also because of the fact that we've seen this match multiple times. Uh, and it's not to say that they were disappointed or anything in this match. You know, Cena actually won the match, but it's just the fact that we've seen it so much between last year and 2016 that when it happened this year, it was good, fine, and dandy, but it's not like what you would put under like the top 10, if anything, in my opinion. So, and I'll let you guys know, you're going to hear a lot of Seth Rollins and Styles on this list. That's why I had to narrow it down. I had to take some of Seth's matches off this list because of the fact he had so many good matches on the main roster on Raw. I had to narrow it down and take some of his matches off the list. So don't be surprised, guys, if you don't hear some of Seth Rollins' best matches that I left out. Don't be surprised because I know they were good, but there's a reason why they were not put on my list because I try to stay out the same way how last year I tried to stay away from saying a bunch of AJ Styles. It's kind of the same way how this year I'm trying to stay away from saying a lot of Seth Rollins. Um, so, like I said, this is the start of it. Styles isn't mentioned that much in this list either. It was mostly Styles matches this year. Most of his best matches uh, just ended in a bad finish, in my opinion. But anyway, Cena and Styles, that was a good match on SmackDown Live at number 15 on the 27th of February. Number 14, we got Fastlane. Cena versus Styles versus Baron Corbin versus Sami Zayn versus Dolph Ziggler versus Kevin Owens for the WWE Championship. Now, one of the reasons why this was placed low on the list was because the story here wasn't even about AJ Styles. See, one of the things that kind of killed me doing most of AJ's title reign is the fact that most of the time, and this is kind of the same thing they did with Jinder Mahal, but for AJ, it's just kind of crazy they did this with him. Most of the time, they didn't really have him as the main event of the show, nor did they have him as the opener of the show. And in this case, the story was more about Kevin Owens and Sammy's uh, their feud with Shane McMahon than it was about. It was more about that than it was about AJ Styles himself. That was more of the story in this match, and you could tell because when Kevin Owens and Sammy both had the match won, Shane McMahon came out and pulled them both from winning. And every man got his chance to shine in this match. I mean, you had Baron Corbin. He had his chance to shine in this match. He you know, as the powerhouse that he is, did a lot of powerful moves against everybody. You had Cena had the biggest spot of the whole match when he did the attitude adjustment to AJ Styles through the announce table. You had Dolph Ziggler, who had his chance to shine in this match. I mean, everybody had their chance to shine in this match. Truth be told, AJ really didn't do as much in this match. To tell the truth, most of the match was mostly Corbin, Sane, Kevin Owens, Cena. It was mostly them. AJ wasn't doing as much in this match, but everyone got their shine one way or another. And like I said, one of the reasons why this match was placed so low on this list with the match of the year is because it was more about Kevin and Sammy's relationship with Shane McMahon than it was about AJ Styles himself, than it was about Cena himself. It was more about that story than anything else. It really, you could tell that it was less about the WWE champion and more about that. It was to the point where most of SmackDown was mainly consisting of this. Like they put this as the main priority, as the main supremacist. You could tell that the AJ thing wasn't like their main focus, and you could really tell by seeing this here. AJ, with him being WWE champion, that was not their main focus. It's crazy, but it's the truth. He just wasn't their main focus. So, like I said, in this sake, um, the WWE Championship match was placed this low from Fastlane because of the fact that the main focus wasn't even about the WWE Champion. The whole story of that matchup was Kevin Owens and Sammy's relationship with Shane McMahon because he was holding a vendetta against him, as they said. And he was kind of mocking for them to lose the match. And then that's when Kevin Owens super kicked them. And then he went for the pop-up powerbomb to John Cena, had the match once. Shane McMahon pulled him from the ring. Then Sami Zayn, I believe he did a Hallelujah kick to Kevin Owens, had the match won. Then Shane McMahon pulled him out the ring. And because of that, he prevented both guys from winning the WWE Championship. So that was really the main story of that match. It wasn't even really about AJ Styles. Like it had nothing to do with AJ Styles. It was more about them. And then in Cena's instinct, it was just him trying to do whatever it takes to, you know, to be on the top, which started this whole thing with the Undertaker, is what that was all about. But it's just the fact that it wasn't all about him. So for that, that's a number 14. At number 13, we're gonna go with the Raw Gauntlet match. Specifically, this happened on February 19th, right before the Elimination Chamber. Each guy in this match participated in the Elimination Chamber. Specifically, I'm referring to the performance of Seth Rollins. This was really the start of what became a list of great matches that Seth Rollins would have this year. This match here was no different. Seth Rollins, I'm gonna be true. Now a lot of people are just opening their eyes to Seth Rollins and saying how good he is, but Seth Rollins has always been a relatively good wrestler. If you look back at some of the matches he had with Roman Reigns, especially the match they had at Money in the Bank back in 2016. If you look back at the match that, if you look back at the match he had with Daniel Bryan on Raw back in 2015. If you look back on the match that he had at the Royal Rumble with Brock Lesnar and Cena, like Seth Rollins has always been relatively good, but I think this year they really pulled the trigger on him even more, and people are really just starting to see how good he really is. But Seth Rollins was always this good. Even if you look back at some of the matches he had in the past, he's performed very well. The match he had with Cena, I would have nearly said was a 5-star match if it weren't for Jon Stewart getting involved and passing the steel chair, hitting Cena with it only to pass the steel chair for Seth Rollins to hit him with the pedigree. But you know, this was just an amazing performance for Seth. He set the record of being the longest person to last within the match. This match, he lasted about an hour. And guys, forgive me if I get this wrong here. It was about an hour and 5 minutes. So I believe there's about 60 minutes, about 65 minutes he lasted in this match, which was a record set that no one has ever done. I think this match was even longer than the match Cena had with Shawn Michaels back in 2007, right before Backlash, April 23rd, 2007. Um, but excellent performance by Seth Rollins. This is what really opened the door for Seth to have incredible matches. First, he started off against Roman Reigns. Um, him and Roman, like I said, him and Roman have, people can say what they want about Roman, but each time that Roman has faced Seth in one-on-one matchups, they've had really good matches, and this was no different. Seth ended up eliminating Roman with a roll-up pin. Um, it was a lot of back and forth action. Superman punch, uh, you know, power bomb. Um, so much one-on-one, so much back and forth action in this match. And Seth Rollins came out on top and eliminated Roman Reigns. And then the match that really put everyone under the map, and which even put me under the map so much that I even remember I did a video about this, if you guys go back to earlier this year, where he faced Cena and beat Cena clean. Pin Cena clean. Now, the reason why I was surprised about this was because of the fact that in the history book, from what I've seen, and maybe, sorry, folks, maybe at a live event, I could be wrong. Maybe at a live event, he may have beat Cena clean. But from what I've seen, and Seth was a heel from 2014 when he turned against the Shield all the way up until 2016. So he was relatively a heel for 2 years straight. From what I've seen with all the one-on-one matchups he's had with Cena, he's never beat Cena clean. He beat Cena at SummerSlam 2015, but he didn't beat him clean. This was the first time that I saw Seth pin Cena clean. Out of all the times he's faced Cena, this is the first time I actually seen him pin Cena clean. And that was when I really said, whoever wrote the script for Seth here, like, this was absolutely amazing because this was the best match that I've ever seen. He stole Cena's attitude adjustment, which is the same exact thing he did to him at which is the same exact thing that he did to him at SummerSlam 3 years ago. Um, he hit Cena. He kicked out of the attitude adjustment. He hit Cena with the curve stomp for the win to eliminate John Cena. Which of course after this he got eliminated by Elias. But even with Elias, he still was doing pretty good. By then he was already dealing with his leg injury because of the fact that Cena was going for the STFU a lot. He was going for his submission a lot. So for that, um, Seth Rollins was kind of hurt from that, and so when he faced Elias, you just kind of knew that he wasn't going to eliminate Elias because at that point it would have been too good to be true for them to have had Seth win the whole entire gauntlet match. And from there, it just kind of went fast paced. Those were the two longest matches of the whole entire thing. Um, Roman and Seth and John Cena. John Cena and Seth was like the longest match of the whole gauntlet match. At that point, just kind of sped up because once he eliminated Cena, pretty soon he got eliminated by Elias. Then Elias got eliminated by Finn Balor, which even that match was pretty short. And then Finn Balor got eliminated by The Miz, and then The Miz got eliminated by Braun Strowman. So you just kind of knew that once Seth got eliminated, that the match was just kind of going to speed up because they didn't want to have it take up too much of the show because it nearly took up almost the whole episode of Raw that night. That's literally the only thing that nearly any of us can remember about that night is the gauntlet match because it was one match that nearly took up the whole show to the point that when it ended, you could pretty much say the show was done because that took up nearly half the show. Um, Next up, like I said, guys, this started the amazing performance by Seth Rollins. Next up, you have the Elimination Chamber itself. Uh, Excellent performance by everyone. Even though Roman Reigns did win this match, and like I said, a lot of people, leukemia or not, still not big fans of Roman Reigns. Uh, this was a great showing by every man in this match. Seth Rollins, like I said, continued to have his good showing. I like how everybody ganged up on Braun Strowman. Seth Rollins hit with the frog splash. Finn Balor tried to hit him with the coup de grace. John Cena tried to hit him with the attitude adjustment. Roman Reigns hit him with the spear. Everybody tried to do what they could to eliminate Braun Strowman, and it just would not work. Braun Strowman was just too much to eliminate. And Braun Strowman became the last person to last with Roman Reigns. And, Roman Reigns ended up beating Braun Strowman. I think this match here, I believe it was going to determine who was going to face Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, if I'm not mistaken. Because Shinsuke, he had already chose to face AJ Styles at WrestleMania. So, and we already knew that it was going to be Roman and Brock anyway. So that's kind of why it was pretty obvious of who they were going to pick to win this match. But it was still a great performance by every guy in this match. Like I said, Seth Rollins once again was looking good in this match. Braun Strowman was looking good. John Cena was looking good. Elias was looking good. The Miz was looking pretty good. I mean, everybody had some really good showing in this match. And Braun Strowman really had most of the pins in this match. He did most of the eliminations in this match. I actually think he eliminated Elias first in this match. Um, but he had most of the pins in this match. Um, but it was still, like I said, a really good performance by each man, and Roman Reigns came out with the victory as expected. So there you go with that. Number 11, we got the Usos versus the New Day on SmackDown Live. This is actually 2 nights after WrestleMania this happened. They had a lot of good matches, great matches last year. It was really one of the highlights of the summer last year. Although they were playing hot tomatoes with the title, they had some amazing matches last year. And this match here was no different. It was definitely a makeup for the way that the WrestleMania match turned out, where um, they weren't given enough time. It was very short. Them, the Usos, and the New Day, the Usos, and the Bludgeon Brothers. You kind of knew that the Bludgeons were going to win the titles, but what killed it for me was just how short the match was. And it's a damn shame because it was the first time the Usos were actually on the main card. And their first time being on the main card was like the shortest match ever for them. You could just tell that they were going to make it that short. And it's kind of like uh, if they were going to make it that short, it was no purpose of putting it on the main card to begin with. It was just such a waste of time. And this match made up for that big time. When the New Day faced the Usos 2 nights after WrestleMania, this match made up for that big time. This match definitely made up for that. And I think that this match was actually to determine who was going to face the Bludgeons at in Saudi Arabia at the Greatest Royal Rumble, which ended up being the Usos. So the Usos won this match. They were given a lot more time in this match. Um, you know, a lot more time they were given at WrestleMania. And for that, I had to put this match on the list because uh, it was such a good match, and it's just so sad that they weren't given this amount of time at WrestleMania. So the Uso versus the New Day, this was one of the best matches on SmackDown for this year. Uh, so there you go with that. Number 10, you got the New Day versus the Bludgeon Brothers. This leaves in place on August 21st for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. So basically, kind of like what I said for the honorable mentions here. So for this match here, you knew that the New Day was going to win because Eric Roman was going through an injury. And so you just kind of question why didn't they just drop the belts at SummerSlam if they were going to drop it 2 nights later. But this was a good showing by both teams here. You had the Bludgeon Brothers put Kobe through a ladder. It didn't break, but just slammed him through a ladder. You had Eric Roman try to run towards Kobe or Xavier. Then they moved, and then he ended up falling through the barricade, which looked really funny. Uh, and this was one of the things that was surprising with this match was this was the first time that Kobe and Xavier Woods won the titles with them two because we've always seen each time that unless I'm not mistaken, because I'm trying to think if last year it was Kobe and Xavier that won the belts against the Usos at Battleground, or if that was Kobe and if that was Kobe and Big E, or if that was Big E and Xavier. Because I do know that at Battleground last year, that was the first time Xavier was actually pinned one of the Usos, or really not pin one of the Usos, but pin someone to win the tag belts. Basically, to say that before that, when they were winning the tag belts, it was just either Big E or Kobe that was doing the pin, but this was like the first time that Xavier had actually pinned someone to win the tag belts. And so I'm trying to think if that match was him and Kobe, because if it was, then this wouldn't be the first time that they won the belts with these two guys. Which I'm looking back on it, and I really think it was these two guys because I don't think that was I don't think that one was and Big E and Xavier. I think that match was actually Kobe and Xavier. I just have to look back at it, but I do know that when they won the tag belt last year, when they were in Las Vegas against the Usos, that was actually Kobe and Big E for that one. So this was either the first or second time that we saw Kobe and Xavier win the tag belts together, which is very surprising because we normally don't see them win when it's those two. Um, but like I said, it was great showing by both guys. You couldn't even really tell that Eric was going through an injury. I hope that they come back soon because they have been gone for quite some time. It'd be interesting to see who they feud with when they do return, or it'd be interesting to see if they're even going to have them come back as the Bludgeons because of the fact that they've been gone for so long, and that's just one of the biggest things I've noticed when it comes to them is that whenever one of the Wyatts get injured, when they come back, they kind of just change the whole dynamic. So it'd be interesting to see if they're even going to still continue with the whole thing. But and that was a good match as well between both teams. I was glad to see the New Day win the belts. This actually marked their fifth tag team championship together. A lot of people are saying they're going stale, but I mean, they're still high merchandise, and not only that, but you can say what you want about the New Day. You can say they're going style, but one thing I will say about their matches, although lately they seem to have been botching a lot in their matches, but one thing about a lot of their matches that they can be corny, they can play around all they want, but when it comes to when they're in the ring, it's all game on. Like their matches are absolutely incredible. And this match here was no different. So I put that at number 10. At number 9, you got Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins. Specifically, I'm speaking on Raw April 2nd. Now, this was the Raw right before WrestleMania. Now, why did I pick this match? Because, like I said, I try to stay away from picking a lot of Seth Rollins matches. And for this match specifically, Seth had a lot of matches, a lot of good matches with Finn on Raw. But for a similar way of how when you just see too much of the same guys facing each other, it gets sickening. It's kind of how this was. And out of all the matches he had with Finn on Raw, this was definitely my favorite. And um, this was right before their WrestleMania encounter with The Miz in the triple threat for the IC title. I think this match was absolutely incredible that Finn had with Seth Rollins on Raw right before WrestleMania, especially the way that the finish happened, the way how Seth just hit the curb stomp out of nowhere on Finn Balor. This was definitely one of my favorite matches that him and Finn had against each other compared to all the matches that they've had against each other this year. This was one of my favorites right before WrestleMania when he faced Seth Rollins. What made it even more special is that they actually had The Miz on commentary during this match, and he was just getting all hype and really getting into it when these guys was going at it. So this was a really good match between the two. Of course, Seth Rollins wasn't the IC champion just yet when this match took place because it was right before WrestleMania. But I had to put this match on here because I think, a lot of people, some matches I put on here are some matches I think a lot of people underestimate. And I think this is one of those matches people would kind of underestimate where if they made a top 10 list or a top 5 list, they wouldn't even include this match on that list. But you gotta, I always try to think outside of the box when it comes to these match of the year candidate lists. So I try to do things that most people wouldn't even think of. And that's just a prime example of what this is here. So at number 8, we have Seth Rollins versus Dolph Ziggler for the IC title. Now for this match here, I'm specifically speaking on June 18th, I believe is when this took place on Raw. This was the Raw where Dolph Ziggler actually won the title from Seth Rollins. And the reason I put this here is simply because of the fact that it was very unexpected. And even me myself did not expect them to have Dolph Ziggler come out on top. I for sure thought that Seth Rollins was going to retain the belt. But by them having Dolph Ziggler win the belt himself, it really made the story more interesting. And so for that, I had to put this match at number 8 because out of all the matches that Seth had with Dolph, and don't get me wrong, he has some incredible war matches with Dolph. I think their match at Extreme Rules was a little over dragged, and that could be the reason why the crowd weren't as invested in it. But it was a good match. But I just think that maybe it was a little over dragged. The match at SummerSlam was an incredible match, but like I said, stuff just gets redundant. It just makes you lose interest. And this was kind of the start of their long feud that lasted the whole summer, even past the summer, um, when they faced each other on Raw. It all started this night where Dolph won the IC title from him. And I think that this match, out of all the matches that they had, was the most unexpected because Dolph actually won the belt with a little help from Drew McIntyre, but he still won the belt. And it was unexpected and no one saw it coming. Neither did I see it coming. So for that, I had to put this on here because compared to all the other matches he had with Dolph, this was definitely a really unexpected victory for Dolph Ziggler. Um, a guy who's been underutilized for years, a man who most people stopped even caring for, a man who really should have left the company a long time ago. But this was a good showing by both guys. They were going to have more good matches on Raw, but like I said, it was so many of them that I'm just going to specifically stick with this one because of the redundancy of their matches. This is why I only chose one. That's to say I was going to stay away from doing a bunch of Seth matches because it was a lot of redundancy, and I just don't want to have that on my list with so much redundancy. Um, and not only am I going to have to do a separate video on 205 Live and NXT, but for the first time ever, I may even have to actually do a video based on my top matches from Raw or SmackDown separately because there were even a lot of good TV matches. I got a couple of TV matches on this list, but there were even some more TV matches I saw this year that were absolutely incredible. So we'll see what happens from there. But at number 7, we got the Women's Elimination Chamber. Now, I said the Men Elimination Chambers was good, but the Women's was excellent. The Women's, I nearly thought, stole the show at the Elimination Chamber. That was amazing. Alexa Bliss went on to retain her belt. Everyone looked good in this match. Mickey James looked good. Um, Sandra Deville looked good. Mandy Rose looked good. Uh, you know, Sasha Banks looked good. Bayley looked good. And at one point, you nearly thought that Sasha was going to team up with Bayley. This is when they had this weird thing where Sasha was kind of turning on Bayley. It all, it was slowly growing because she was helping Bayley out at first, but then she nearly tried to get Bayley eliminated. And you could just tell that this was slowly growing between the two in this match. This is why Corey Graves was acting the way he was. You could just really see the tension between the two in this match. Uh, but this was definitely a great showing by every woman in this match. For this to be the first uh, women's elimination chamber, I definitely got to give it a big thumbs up. I wouldn't be surprised they did another one in the near future. And I say in the near future now because of the fact that both shows are co-branded again, once again. and the pay-per-views are not, separate like it was last year, 2016. Um, but this was the last Raw pay-per-view that was separate from SmackDown, and this was nearly the match that stole the show. Absolutely amazing, especially when uh, Alexa Bliss went for the Twisted Bliss on Sasha Banks from the top of the pod. That was amazing. And then she retained the belt from hitting Sasha Banks with a DDT. You know, you had Sasha Banks go for a frog splash from the top of the pod. You had so many interesting things happen this match. You had Mickey James flying from the top of the pod when I think it was Mandy Rose or Sandra Deville. That's how she eliminated one of them. So it was just such great things that happened in this match. It was absolutely incredible. Um, Alexa Bliss went out to retain her women's championship. So this was definitely a big boost up. I definitely gotta say this match was absolutely incredible. With all women right here, absolutely amazing. And at number 6, there is a tie here. You have the Women's Royal Rumble match, which once again was excellent. Let me just say this: this year was truly, in my opinion, a huge step up for the women. Sure, they have good matches on NXT. Sure, they have good matches there. And sure, they had good matches in the Mae Young Classic. But this was a huge step up for the main roster for the women because this was no different. The Elimination Chamber match they had was excellent. This Royal Rumble match they had, the actual Royal Rumble match itself was excellent. Now, of course, they had a lot of women who made returns, like Lita, like Trish Stratus, like Molly Holly, like Beth Phoenix at one point. They even had so many women come back that you hadn't seen in a long time during this match. But you also had the current women who was also in the match, like Sandra, like Mandy, like Sasha, like Bayley. You had the current women who was in this match. There was so much tension with the eliminations, and it became down to Oscar and Nikki, which was kind of weird that they had them. It come down to them two after Nikki actually eliminated Bayley. I mean, actually eliminated her sister Brie. We also saw uh, Sasha Banks. I think she eliminated Trish Stratus. So there's a lot of tensions with the eliminations here. Um, like I said, the old versus the new. Absolutely incredible. This was an amazing women's match. You kind of knew they were going to have Oscar win. This was before Oscar's undefeated streak ended. This is why it nearly seemed obvious that Oscar was going to win the SmackDown Women's title at WrestleMania, and it did not happen. This is why all of us thought that she was going to win because of the way they booked her at the Royal Rumble and because of how they had her kept her undefeated. But that didn't happen, and they basically fooled us all wrong. But it was a good match, and Oscar came out on top. I wasn't really a fan of Nikki being the last person with Oscar because then it made it too obvious she was going to win. There was no way they were going to have Nikki win. And yeah, the men's Royal Rumble match was great as well. Um, and I say this because you had a lot of NXT guys like Andrade Yamas, like Adam Cole, who burst on the scene at the Royal Rumble and made a big name for themselves. You had the return of Rey Mysterio, who actually got cheered this year and didn't get booed like he got booed the last time that he was at the Royal Rumble, all because of Daniel Bryan. So it was a lot of good faces who showed up this year um, at the Royal Rumble match for the men. And the fact that they had Shinsuke win the Royal Rumble, it was refreshing. It was something new. It was something that we had all been wanting to see, especially considering the fact that the last couple of years they've been having um, either old guys, part timers, or old guys winning the Rumble, or just guys who've already been established who didn't really have a need to win in the Rumble. Like last year when Orton won, people cheered, but they only cheered because he eliminated Roman Reigns, and they didn't want Roman Reigns to win. But I mean, did you really have to give the Royal Rumble victory to Orton? You could have given it to Bray Wyatt. I mean, there was no need for Orton to win that. He's already established at this point. Give it to someone young and up and coming. And Roman, I said as many times,